Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan warns that a new world order is emerging, one which he says subscribes to the law of the jungle. But amid growing uncertainty, Dr. Balakrishnan says Singapore is in a strong position that is rooted in its robust economy, defence capabilities and domestic cohesion. Rebecca Mateo reports.
The world is now shifting from unipolarity to multipolarity, from free trade to protectionism, from multilateralism to unilateralism, from globalization to hyper-nationalism, from openness to xenophobia, from optimism to anxiety.
Big words that might seem abstract to some, but are rapidly becoming realities for Singapore. Foreign Affairs Minister Vivian Balakrishnan says this shift has affected trade and growth. Take, for example, the US tariffs. While Singapore is not a direct target, these changes will impact global trade and in turn affect the country. Dr. Balakrishnan says that's because Singapore is an open economy, one that is deeply integrated with the world's major powers. Another effect is on war and peace. Conflicts like the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, now in its fourth year, and the crisis in Gaza have not only caused a humanitarian crisis, but also fueled radicalization. Dr. Balakrishnan says these events have also disrupted global oil trade, with energy and food prices also surging in its aftermath.
All these global developments on both the economic and geostrategic fronts have profound implications for us. The rules-based international order that has prevailed for 80 years is at risk of degenerating into the law of the jungle where might makes right. We may, in fact, be reverting to a time when the world is divided into blocs controlled by big powers. And by definition, this must mean the loss of choice and autonomy for small states.
But Dr. Balakrishnan says that despite Singapore's size, the country has the agency to build strength, protect its sovereignty and stay relevant. The key is for its people to remain united and not let different views on various developments divide the country.
Because of our strength economically, we cannot be bullied or bought. We have significant national reserves. It is a big advantage for Singapore not to have to beg for aid. We have no need for assistance or loans that will subject us to external pressure. We are not dependent on any single external partner. And perhaps even more importantly, we do not depend on any external country to defend Singapore. We have the capability and the will to defend ourselves.
In this shifting landscape, Dr. Balakrishnan stresses that Singapore must continue its balanced and constructive engagement with all partners. For example, he says it is important that Singapore maintained relationships with both US and China amid rivalry between the two world superpowers.
We have maintained our relevance and credibility with both powers by being consistent, by being transparent, and being constructive. And we don't simply tell them what they want to hear, but we are principled, we're trustworthy, and we play a straight game. And both of them know that when Singapore takes a stand, it's not because we're doing it at the behest of its rival, of its adversary, but that we take a stand because we have done our own calculation of what is in our long-term enlightened national interests.
Beyond the superpowers, Singapore also works with many partners around the world, including India, Japan and the Middle East. Dr. Balakrishnan says the island state has overlapping circles of friends and has a network of 27 free trade agreements that cover 90% of the nation's trade. Singapore also works with neighbours like Malaysia on maritime and airspace issues, while working with ASEAN to boost boost regional resilience in areas like food and energy. To complement these efforts, Singapore must also be able to attract and retain talent and technology from all over the world.
We will take firm action and move decisively against errant individuals and companies that flout our domestic laws. We do not condone companies taking advantage of their association with us to engage in evasive, deceptive, or dubious business practices for short-term commercial advantages, because that actually sullies and takes unfair advantage of Singapore's reputation.
Dr. Balakrishnan says staying open and agile in seizing new opportunities has been key to Singapore's success, and this must remain its guiding principle moving forward.
As for the conflict in Gaza, Singapore says it is focused on active diplomacy and has taken steps to alleviate the suffering of civilians in Gaza through humanitarian aid. Now, the Foreign Affairs Ministry adds that this position of engagement is the best way towards the prospects of a two-state solution.
Kita akan mengambil tindakan yang mengutamakan kepentingan Singapura. Ia tidak boleh berdasarkan di mana kita berpihak. Wajar untuk kita beringat bahawa setakat ini semua negara Arab yang mempunyai hubungan diplomatik dengan Israel sebelum serangan 7 Oktober 2023 tidak mengambil langkah untuk memutuskan hubungan mereka dengan Israel.
Now, for more on Singapore's foreign policy positions, we're now joined by Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan. Minister, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
You spoke at length today about the changing world order and this shift from multilateralism to unilateralism. What role can small states like Singapore play in maintaining this multilateral rules-based order in this increasingly unpredictable, very challenging geopolitical environment?
Well, I think the first point is awareness. We are at the end of an era. An era where the liberal world order actually brought peace and prosperity and gave enormous opportunities, especially for a tiny city-state like us, dependent on trade, dependent on investments, dependent on being a node in a global network. So my first point was, this is the end of an era. We don't quite know yet what the new world order will be. We certainly are worried about the emergence of the law of the jungle and of the world splitting up into blocks, because if that happens, that's bad news for small states. It means, by definition, loss of choice, loss of autonomy. But having said that, whilst I was trying to strike a note of caution, I wanted to also make sure that we didn't end up being pessimistic. And that's why the point is that if you take a careful look at Singapore and what we've achieved after 60 years, we're actually in a position of strength. The fact that we've got abundant fiscal reserves, that our budget is in surplus, that we're not dependent on aid, means we are not, open to pressure or to be bullied or extortion. Second, the fact that over 6 decades of continuous investment in defense means, and I don't just mean investment in the financial sense, but national service and the support for national service. It means we can defend ourselves. We stand on our own 2 feet. We're not dependent on any white knight to come in and rescue us. That gives us the wherewithal and the gumption to stand up, defend what is ours. But I was also emphasizing the most important point is our own unity. That we are diverse people, but we have forged a Singaporean identity after 60 years. It is an identity which must have space for diversity and for expressing the diversity. But even as we express the diversity, we can still find areas of confluence and we can do constructive work together. And I gave the example of the tragedy in Gaza. People may have different opinions, strong opinions, but we're all agreed this is a humanitarian disaster. We can all do our bit to relieve the suffering. The fact that our RSAF is delivering the assistance that Singaporeans, out of the goodness of our hearts, are delivering to the Palestinians. It's another case in point. It's the unique Singapore model. So don't lose hope. There are opportunities in a time of crisis. If we are smart, alert, agile, we can seize those opportunities.
You were talking about unity in diversity, and
Yes.
as you mentioned, Singaporeans are becoming increasingly vocal in their opinion on our national positions.
Which is a good thing.
Which is a good thing,
Yes.
but especially when it comes to the Israel-Hamas conflict. But how will the government continue to manage these diverse views without compromising our foreign policy objectives?
First, listen. And it's good for everyone to listen to a contrarian view. And then identify areas where there is confluence, and identify, more importantly, don't just get angry, get active, do something useful. And that's what we've been doing, and I think Singapore has passed this test, that this is a difficult issue, could so easily have polarized and divided us. We have avoided that fate. We've been able to get together and do some good together.
When it comes to the US and China,
Yes.
can we expect a change in the way Singapore has been engaging the two superpowers amid their strategic rivalry to maintain our relevance, our credibility to both sides?
First point is going to be more difficult because obviously there is a lack of strategic trust and there are difficulties in how to get along. First point. Second point is that we still have major stakes in our relationship with both these partners. America is our largest foreign investor, our largest trading partner for services. We have investments in America. China is our largest trading partner for goods. And if you ask the Chinese, they will say we are their largest foreign investor. So we have real equities at stake. The third point then is that if they don't get along, how do we fit in? Well, the first thing I would say is we want to be relevant, we want to be useful, but you don't want to be crushed in between two conflicting superpowers. The way we do it is to play it straight. We tell them that we are not going to act at the behest of an adversary or rival against their interests. What we do with you and what we do with the other party will be open, transparent. Everyone can see what we're doing. And that's where it comes also to the activities of companies in Singapore. The reason companies want to come to Singapore is because we are open, we are predictable, we're reliable, we're trustworthy. But that also means we need to make sure companies don't use their association with us to get a short-term commercial advantage by engaging in evasive or dubious business practices. So, that high hygiene level is important because the Singapore paradigm of doing business is openness and trust. And that's critical to our value proposition. So, given the way the superpower relationship is unfolding, I believe there is still a role for an open, honest, reliable, trustworthy partner. And I use the word partner because it is a two-way relationship. The investments, the trade, the interactions, we have no intention of being a vassal state, of being a tributary, of being dependent. We believe in interdependence, we believe in mutual benefit. Now, to the extent that a tiny city-state can engage in that kind of relationship with big powers is an enormous challenge. And I've said in Parliament, we will never be their largest partner, trading partner or investor. But we can be the most reliable, the most dependable partner. And I believe if we can play this game straight, open, honest, transparent, we still have a role to play.
While maintaining openness and trust as well.
Absolutely.
Right,
Openness and trust is critical.
We appreciate your insights, Minister. Thank you so much for coming in tonight. We were speaking there with Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan. Thank you.
Thank you.